I would be cashed out at that point and compensated for all of my vacation and comp time. The sum of money that I would receive from that would cover and eliminate in full that balance, that debt that we have for our car payment.
Yeah, so if we sell this house and he quits his job, we'll be debt free and unemployed and homeless. Oh, it is living in the new world.
Welcome back to the New World Old Soul podcast, everyone. Thank you for being here, Mama. That was you and I, looking much younger, going back
skinnier.
5 years. I had a far better hairline back then, not so many wrinkles.
And I hadn't discovered that you should wear makeup on camera yet.
That was a video entitled Our Full Financial Breakdown. Are we ready to make the move to Idaho? Here we are 5 years later. Obviously, we made the move.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about things?
I mean, I'm glad that all of our fears in that video didn't play out, because you can kind of see moments in the video where we're like...
Absolutely terrified. Clearly.
We're like, we'll be out of debt, but we won't have a house.
Yeah. We, our 5-year anniversary of us pursuing our dreams, our goals in life, we are upon that date. Mm-hmm. April of 2020 was our first day here in Idaho.
Yep.
It has been quite the adventure. It has been a ton of work. And not that we want to do a recap, but we wanted to hop on here to look back, but also encourage maybe some of you out there who feel as though you're maybe stuck in a rut in life, to take a risk, to jump, to make that leap, to bet on yourself and pursue your dreams, pursue your passions and the life it is that you envision for yourself.
Yeah.
So in going back and watching that video, you referenced the fear, the terror in our eyes with this major life decision that we made for ourselves. How does it make you feel to watch that now that it's been 5 years?
I kind of want to tell those people, like, it's okay, it works out. And it's funny because we get those comments still today. Every once in a while, someone who's been watching for the whole time, or they just found us now, will find that video and then go, oh, go, it works out fine. But really, when we were in that place, sitting in those little chairs, talking about it, breaking it down, we were trying to convince ourselves that it was okay. And then we were hoping that the audience would like, yeah, it's okay.
Validation.
Yeah, we were looking for like the A-okay, but we got a lot of people saying like, ugh.
Including in our personal life.
Mostly in our personal life.
Primarily in our personal lives.
Yeah. Both sets of parents suggested that we wait a year. And I think they were hoping that we would change our mind in that year and not do it at all. But had we waited a year and not listened to that pull to go right now, because we both had this weird pull, go right now.
Yeah.
And it didn't really make sense at the time to go right then. It made sense to wait.
It made absolutely zero sense.
Yeah, we had just purchased the land. We had just put in the barn. We were pretty much cash broke. It didn't make a lot of sense to go at the time. And the housing market was kind of on the way up. There were so many reasons to wait. And we chose not to. And I think a lot of people, mostly our family, were very nervous about that.
Well, funny backstory, because Melissa and I, after making this leap, after taking this massive, massive risk in coming out here with really no job, a certain amount of financial means, because we had done our best to prepare to make that move. We afforded ourselves the risk to a certain extent.
We didn't have any money when we first came out. I think we had like $2,000 or $3,000 to our name because we had put everything in on the land, and we needed to sell our house in Washington. So we did have a pending offer, but that was right when the pandemic flared up. Yeah. And all the house sales were falling through. So we had a really high likelihood of it falling through. Our buyer was getting a little nervous, and because they were afraid, okay, now everything's going to collapse. Maybe I shouldn't buy. And we kind of came out here on a wing and a prayer, hoping that the sale would go through. And if the sale went through, we'd be okay. We would have the equity from the house to start building the new property. But if it hadn't gone through, I don't know what we would have done. Right.
You referenced a wing and a prayer. As we were sitting here recording this, we just released a new video over on Good Simple Living. I want to touch upon your closing remarks to that video, because you're always so eloquent. You encapsulate every episode so well with your your VO, your voiceover at the end of every video. But I wanted to go back because you and I internally both felt a tremendous amount of fear, but we never admitted it to one another openly until we had actually made the move. You and I told each other that most definitely felt as though none of this would ever actually occur and take place. It was just kind of out there. It seemed impossible to build our own home, to establish, a means of providing for ourselves. It seemed so impossible. And then you admitted to me that you were like, yeah, I didn't think any of this was possible either. I thought we would probably just hold on to this land as an investment, eventually sell it because land values began to skyrocket shortly after we purchased, our land here, which we are incredibly blessed to have been in a position to obtain and purchase. But it was all just kind of a pipe dream that neither one of us, I think, fully believed in. And despite all of that, we still did it. So to go back for a second, you referenced Jeremiah 29:11. You want to recite that on camera here since you're better at
me right on the spot
reciting the Bible verses than I am.
Okay. Jeremiah 29:11 is, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not harm you, plans to give you hope in a future."
It's so easy for us to sit here and recite that because everything turned out okay.
Yeah.
And to encourage others to place your faith that God has a plan for your life, and that if you rely upon God and his guidance, that he will provide for you a path.
Right. You're already getting emotional. We just started talking. Something that I kind of clung to was that we were very called to come out here. Like, we both felt, you called me from work and you're like, we should go, we should list the house. And I had that same, like, the pressure was mounting. Like, there was all this pressure on us to go, but no one was putting, if anything, people were telling us not to go, right. But we were both feeling this weight on our chest. And it was definitely a spiritual type thing. It was definitely God putting that pressure on us.
Like, it makes absolutely zero sense. You probably shouldn't, but do it anyway.
Yeah. Like, the timing wasn't great. We needed to build up our savings. We hadn't figured out so many things. The pandemic was just starting. We didn't know what that meant. There were so many reasons to wait, but we had all this pressure to go immediately. And I thought, okay, that's definitely the voice of God putting this on our hearts to go. And I thought, like, maybe something more serious was coming and we needed to, like, go.
Yeah.
Which sounds crazy, but I didn't want to not listen because I knew that God's not going to call us onto the water to let us sink. Yeah. And that was always something, like, he didn't bring us this far to let us fail. So we're not going to fail.
Like I said, that's such a difficult thing to convey to people out there. And the point of us coming in here to discuss this again, it's not about ourselves. It's about maybe some of you out there who are feeling the same way that we did back in 2019.
Mm-hmm. That tug on your heart.
Yeah, you feel this tug, but you feel a tremendous amount of fear at the same time. Remember, I think we were trying to hype ourselves up. Like, we were telling ourselves on a pretty regular basis. Like, you came to me with this story, this analogy one day of, like, this kid being encouraged by their parents to jump into a pool, despite the fact that they couldn't swim. And do you remember this? And she expressed that, no, I can't do it. I'm too afraid. And the coaching,
old lady. Oh yeah, I love that story.
That she got was be afraid and then do it anyway.
Yeah, be afraid and do it anyway.
It's such a beautiful message, and it's something that we fully embraced. And in coming out here again, it's easier for us to say here on the back end that, like, others should do the same. But I just want to encourage you out there, if we're tapping into something with you here, to where you feel this sense of, like, hey, I want to go do this. I want to pursue this. It's going to mean, conquering that fear and sacrificing tremendously, and it's going to require a ton of hard work. Do it, because the not knowing would have driven me crazy for the rest of our lives together. I mean, there's a scenario that plays out in our lives to where we embrace that fear. We stay put. I'm still a police officer. We are not living this fully fulfilled life that we have built for ourselves here, with the guidance and blessing of God.
Yeah, I think, like, God puts stuff on your heart because you're meant to go do things. And so many of us don't do them, and we don't fulfill our purpose in life, and we don't reach those high mountain points that God has for us because of fear.
Fear is a liar.
Fear is a liar. Fear is a prison. fear will prevent us from so many things. And we can come up with every excuse not to live out our dreams, like insurance. What are we going to do about insurance? That's like so many people's fear. I was just having this conversation with one of my good friends, and something that scares her is insurance, and it scared us too.
It did.
And when we talked to your dad about retiring, it scared him too. He's like, oh, what am I going to do for insurance? Like, it's amazing what a speed bump insurance is.
These are minor hurdles.
Yeah.
Ultimately. And something else that I always, would tell myself is like, hey, other people do this. Other people manage to figure it out for themselves. We can too.
Mm-hmm.
If there's somebody out there who's showing me, this is possible, I'm here to tell you, and I don't mean this in a boastful way whatsoever, but I'm here to tell you that we can serve as the proof that it is possible. I'm not saying that it's guaranteed to work out, but never taking that chance, like I said a second ago, left wondering what may have been, what could have been. You'll never know unless you try.
Right.
So jump, make the leap, bet on yourself. It is possible.
Yeah. And there is no launching yourself without the jump. Like, you have to jump out of the nest. You have to jump into the water. You have to jump out of your safety zone, because there's nothing stopping you except for yourself.
Yeah.
And when you're stuck in a job and you're going every day and you hate it, that is a form of prison. Going 5 days a week.
It is. That was ultimately our dream, was finding freedom and fulfillment. I can recall, we were just talking about this, but I can recall sitting in my patrol car in uniform, calling you repeatedly on a daily basis, talking about how I was unhappy. Like I felt as though there was just more to life than paying bills, just getting by. Like that wasn't that treadmill. And this isn't a knock on anybody who works a very long-standing career and is proud of the work that they do. I was proud of the work that I did, but it was just a treadmill. I felt like I was running in place, and that wasn't fulfilling for me whatsoever. We felt as though, we were moving in the right direction, but at a very slow pace. And that only came as a result of our own self-discipline and sacrifice over many, many years.
It's funny because what I thought God had for us out here and what I hoped he had for us out here was different than what he had for us out here.
Yeah. What has transpired,
direction.
what has transpired has literally exceeded our expectations tremendously. And I think that's what so many people would find if they were willing to take on that risk. It's, again, just to use ourselves as the example, the things that have occurred over the last 5 years of our lives collectively as a family has just far exceeded my expectations. It's just absolutely beyond my wildest dreams. And I'm so incredibly grateful for it. And so, our family's so grateful to so many of you out there who have been with us along the way. It goes without saying that none of this would be possible unless we had others who took a vested interest in our pursuit. And so for that, of course, we want to thank everybody it is out there who is currently watching or has watched in the past, has commented, has liked, has encouraged, has sent in any kind of snacks to keep us fueled up while we were building our own home, not knowing what we were doing. But it seems so insurmountable. And that's the reason I think that we both individually, internally refuse to admit to one another. Like, I don't see a means to an end here. Like we don't know what we're doing. I don't know how to build a wall. I didn't know how to assemble furniture. And despite all that, we saved money. We saved the nest egg. We managed to utilize that in a way that made sense for us. We devoted ourselves to learning new skills, whether it be the actual building itself or making these videos.
Yeah, there was 2 parts to making this work. There was actually the construction aspect, which you took on fully. And then there was the production aspect that would hopefully fuel some funds to the construction aspect.
The funny thing is that none of this was really our plan from the onset. It's not like we were like, hey, we can do this. We can make these stupid videos and put them on the internet and see.
The video aspect is mine.
No, and I'm so grateful that we have all of that to reflect upon. But it's just so weird how there was an element of just organic happenstance that led to this outcome. I mean, there were
moments.
I credit God entirely, because while we did have a plan, it wasn't necessarily our plan that got us here, and the things that have happened along the way is, again, it's far exceeded our expectations.
Yeah. As a family, we love bread, pastries, and especially sourdough, but life is busy and I'm not exactly the best baker. So I went on a mission to find an alternative to the junk at the store that's filled with preservatives and a long list of other things that no one can even pronounce. And that's when I found Wild Grain. And now I am 100% addicted because everything has been amazing. Seriously, everything we've gotten from them has been incredible.
Yeah, Wild Grain is the first bake from frozen subscription box for sourdough breads, artisanal pastries, and fresh pastas. They partnered with small bakers and pasta makers across the country to keep the tradition of nutritious, simple ingredient food alive. And you can customize your box with your favorite products.
Yeah, they have their traditional breads and pastas, which is what we usually order, but they also offer the first ever fully plant-based subscription box for breads and pastas, and really good gluten-free options as well. Our current favorite is the traditional sourdough loaf. We eat that about twice a week. And our family's absolute favorite sweet treat is the chocolate-filled croissants.
So now we can give our family the incredible benefits of sourdough without the hard work, and it's quite possibly the best. Perfectly crunchy, yet chewy on the outside, and fluffy and soft on the inside sourdough that we've ever had.
Wild Grain is also so convenient because everything ships straight to our door and goes from freezer to table in just 25 minutes or less. So if you are like us and you love simple ingredient pastas, pastries, cookies, and all the benefits of sourdough bread, definitely check out Wild Grain by clicking the link in our description below or going to wildgrain.com/NWOS and use our code NWOS to get $30 off your first box. Plus, you're going to get free croissants for life. For at least 10 years, we talked about we want to homestead, we want to move to Idaho, we want to live and grow our own food and have animals and let our kids climb trees, and we just want to live this different life. But how do you do that? What do you do out there? If you move to the mountains, what do you do?
Yeah, there's no work here. There's very little work here.
And so there was no path to live the life that we wanted. And then all of a sudden there was. And even though it was weird, we thought maybe that's the path. That's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, but it wasn't abundantly obvious. And I think that's the case for a lot of people. Like the path is not clear, and it doesn't necessarily have to be. Granted, you do need a plan that you decide to execute, but it doesn't have to be like I know every brick in this road. I know how this is going to go. You just have to have it can be a dirt path. It can be
darkness.
It can be dark.
I felt like ours was darkness. Ours was like, I could see, I have this whole water analogy of like being called onto the water. You're not going to sink. It's stormy around you, but the only thing I could see in front of me was black. Like I could see my feet and like a foot of light, and then it was just black, and I didn't know what the path looked like.
It wasn't clear whatsoever.
It was just like, there's just like Jesus's hand reaching out, and it's like, just take my hand. You're not going to sink.
And move forward.
But move forward into what?
Don't know.
That was how I felt the day we moved out here.
So we wanted to discuss this because, like I said, Melissa obviously is on the verge. We don't know whether or not we're going to be here next week or the week after that.
Or tomorrow. We'll be here. We just...
Well, we're taking a break, obviously, once baby is here. But just to review some of the different chapters of our lives online and how, like I said, we just kind of stumbled our way into this. We have the meat rabbit era, the rabbit queen.
Oh, the rabbit queen.
As Melissa was referred to.
I was proud of that title.
We have the small scale farming / homesteading, which we still do a lot of. We get a lot of questions about that. We have, the financial planning aspect of trying to make this happen for ourselves, in which we made that video that I referenced here at the start of this episode. We have me quitting my career in law enforcement and leaving familiarity so incredibly terrifying at the time. Actually making our way out here, moving, getting set up with our initial infrastructure, building this tiny home that we currently find ourselves in, which has metamorphosized into our new podcast studio, which if you told me 5 years ago that we'd be sitting here doing this and I'd be talking to a camera in hopes that anybody out there would be watching and or listening, I would have told you were crazy. And yet here we are. Mm-hmm. God's guidance once again. We had the building of our main home. We had the building of our addition, garage, just our other farm infrastructure, whether it be the barn, the fencing, all that stuff we have outside. It has been quite the adventure. And I will tell you that in the beginning, we didn't know how to do any of these things, whether it be meat rabbits, like I said a second ago with building. We knew nothing.
Well, you built a chicken coop and a little shed before you moved out here. And I thought they were really, really nice.
They weren't.
He was telling me they weren't very nice. And so I was like, okay, well,
I mean, I drew our house as like, this is the dream house. Maybe like probably. And you were like, that's not going to happen
That's
when
not
you saw
achievable.
it. Yeah.
It's like, I can't build that. Come on.
Yeah. And then I was like, okay, well, we'll just build like a little square house. And then I was trying to find like the cheapest of cheap everything, kind of how we built out the tiny home. I thought this was a very practical idea. We built a tiny home for about $10,000.
No, it was $18,000.
Oh, I was just meant the inside.
Right? Oh, yeah. Finishing touches.
Yeah.
But yeah, we skimped in here because we were trying to save money. Still, OSB walls, $7 a sheet at the time.
OSB walls. We did the cheapest 99-cent a square foot flooring on the floors and the walls, flooring on the walls, because we couldn't afford to do actual tongue and groove. And there was just a lot of things like that. And I thought we could still be very, very happy in a house like that. And that's very practical. That's the direction that this is going. And it's amazing when you listen to God and you put all of your trust in God, and then you really put in the hard work. Like I'm not definitely a let go and let God person. I'm a pray.
Aren't you though?
No, I'm a pray to God and row that boat. Like,
yeah, it requires work.
Yes. Don't
Drive.
just sit there and think he's going to do it for you, because he isn't. He's going to give you the gifts. He's going to give you the opportunities.
Yes.
He's going to open doors for you, but you have to walk through them, and then you have to get to work.
Absolutely.
And if you're going to fully put your trust in God and work really hard, he might have so much more for you than you could ever have imagined for yourself.
Take this podcast, for instance. Never, like I said a second ago, never foresaw any of this happening. It's not something that I would have ever said that you and I would be doing at any point, any stage of life. It has opened up a number of doors. Our experience in speaking to people like Willie Robertson, Candace Cameron, Sarah Weaver, Matt Walsh, Zach King, Joel Salatin, Tom and Nancy Orr, all people that we admired tremendously for a number of years, and just seeing them in the flesh, in the wild, having the opportunity to pick their brain, learn from them, speak with them, enter their homes.
Yeah.
It has been an incredible experience.
Granger Smith, we were in his home. It's one of those things where when it's happening, it's so surreal to be. When we sat down with Joel Salatin, we had watched Joel Salatin for so many years.
Huge inspiration.
Talk about farming and everything. And we loved everything that he said and did. And then to be able to email him, have him personally email me back and say, I'd love to sit down with you. Have him in our minivan, driving him to, and then sit down and speak with him and have him say, you guys are every good as bit as Joe Rogan to talk to. That was like, that he said that. He did. We were like, oh yeah, you were on Rogan. That's so cool. And he's like, you guys are every bit as exciting to talk about or to talk to. And we're like, probably not true, but thank you. Like totally made our day. But
again,
it just
speaks to making that leap of faith, right? Taking a chance, betting on yourself. Again, speaking of, and looking at your Black Rifle coffee mug years ago, back when I was a police officer, I can recall wearing their merchandise, drinking
You're wearing
their
their
coffee,
merchandise right now.
Wearing their merchandise right now, these great shirts.
And we're drinking their coffee right now.
I remember the experience of trying Black Rifle coffee for the first time and discussing it with my colleagues. You know, we're all police officers. These guys are very pro-military, pro-law enforcement, pro-first responder. And I remember having these open discussions. You can go back on our channel 5-6 years now, and I'm actually literally wearing their shirt.
The day we drilled the
in
well.
Our video, the day we drilled the well, we're drinking Black Rifle coffee. Little did I know that years later, we'd be partnered with them with an offer for you guys.
Yeah. So you guys know we're partnered with Black Rifle Coffee now. Still surreal because we have legitimately been a customer of theirs for over 5 years. I mean, before we moved here, it had to be Black Rifle. And so now we get to extend some savings onto you guys. We've been bugging them for a while for a code. They never give out codes. They run all kinds of sales on their website all the time. We're going to link their website down below, but they never give out codes. But for us, they gave us a code. So
surreal again.
Yeah. So it's GSL15. That's going to give you guys an extra 15% off, which is awesome. Super excited about it. So I don't know. I mean, like even stuff like this, partnerships with amazing coffee companies that we absolutely love and adore, and you literally just wear all their merch. It's so cool to be able to have something like that a reality. When I post something on Instagram and Black Rifle Coffee likes it, I'm like, I still get so excited.
Cooper. You tell me all the time, Brett Cooper, just like my Instagram posts.
I know I'm such a fan of hers.
It's so bizarre to watch these people over a number of years, and then
it's crazy to have somebody like that follow
and
you on
be able
Instagram.
to interact with them. Not that we worship these people, but we appreciate their time. Their time is valuable, and there's so much to be gleaned from all of them individually in their own right. So I think a part of what has made this so special for us collectively is that we've gotten to experience all of these changes for us as a family. The kids have had exposure to some amazing individuals, people that we've had on the podcast, and you know, others that extend beyond that, to where when we had the opportunity to speak with Billy Robertson and Bethany Hamilton, we came out of those interviews at one point, and Kaimani, our 14-year-old son, was out in the hallway fist bumping Tim Tebow.
It was so weird.
Chatting with him. And
walking out of the room and watching Kaimani and Tim Tebow fist bump, and then him like pat him on the back. I was like, what's happening?
We always joke with them, like, I don't think they have a firm grasp or understanding of just how bizarre our lives have become with everything it is that we've experienced over the last 5 years of doing this.
Blessing, yeah.
But it opens up so many doors, and it's such a positive influence. I hope that it makes such a positive impact on our kids and their upbringing. They've gotten to experience some really amazing things and chat casually without cameras with some amazing people. Yep. So again, it just speaks to saying yes to opportunities. Yeah. Knowing full well that there's going to be some good to come out of it.
That's a big part of it, is saying yes, because we were big say knowers, and there's a lot of power in saying no. Like, I've become very free and happy with having the ability to say no, because I've always been such a doormat, and I would just say yes to stuff I didn't want to do. But I'm learning with business and with opportunities and with the channel and the podcast, say yes at almost any chance that you can, even if it's highly inconvenient, like, you know, a 48-hour whirlwind trip for a single interview. Say yes to that, because that opportunity is probably never going to come knocking again. And that single opportunity can open the door to new opportunities.
It's still just so surreal and bizarre to me every time we actually take the time to reflect upon it. I mean, I tell you all the time, I'll spend time alone outside looking around, just like, how did any of this happen?
Yeah.
Because with just a couple of decisions or a little bit of hesitation, our reality, our day-to-day reality could have been so much drastically different than it is. And which is the reason I walk around with so much, I'm just beyond grateful for the blessings that we've received in life. It feels, I mean, there's even some guilt to come along with it at times. I tell you, it's not that I feel. It just seems like there's such an abundance of blessings that have been bestowed upon us, to where I feel like there's moments where I feel like undeserving of it. You know what I mean?
Well, I think also it's important to not lose sight of the fact that these things you've been blessed by these. You didn't necessarily. You can work really hard, but there's still blessings given to you by God. So be humble about it. Yeah. Be like extremely humble about it, because it could all go away tomorrow. Yes. You didn't cause all this to happen. No. This was given to you. But when much is given, much is expected. And I think that has taken the podcast in a new direction, because originally when we started podcasting, you asked me a question about like the pro-life cause, and I had you remove it from the podcast. Yeah. I panicked and I said, that's a really divisive issue. That's really sensitive. And you're like, but you believe very strongly in that. This is something that you fundraised for as a kid. You brought your own children and you did walks, and you're always the top fundraiser. And like, it's an issue that I'm extremely passionate about, but I was afraid to talk about it because I was afraid of what people would say and not being liked and embraced by everybody.
Let's discuss that for a second, because, you know, we have our gripes when it comes to doing this and just some of the sacrifice. I mean, we probably spend far too much time placing emphasis upon those negative aspects of what we do, despite the fact that, like I said, we've been blessed so tremendously. Thanks to all of you out there. What have been some of the more important lessons that you've learned about yourself throughout this process?
I learned originally that I kind of lost myself on camera a bit because I wanted to be neutral and embraced.
You wanted to make everybody happy.
Yeah, I wanted to make everyone happy. And I learned pretty quickly that you're not going to make everybody happy regardless.
I would say that if you aren't making somebody upset, then you're very likely not living in your truth.
Right. Then
You're not upholding your own personal values. You're being a hypocrite.
Yeah, you're not actually speaking on anything.
Yeah.
You're not standing up for anything. And not that everybody has to go out there and stand up to things, but I do feel like we have been given a platform and I take that with this, there's a responsibility that goes with that. And when I had you remove that, I felt relieved, but then I felt really guilty at the same time. And the thing that went through my head was kind of the voice of God going, I gave you this platform. I gave this to you, and you won't even speak up for my children.
Right.
And I felt such a sense of guilt about that. And I thought, I'm never going to shy away from that subject again. In fact, I'm going to embrace it and I'm going to champion for it because these are God's children and I will speak up for the voiceless. And if people don't like it, then we're not their people. They can go find their crowd. But it is so much more important to speak up for what we know is righteous and good and of God than to be embraced by everybody.
Yeah, I would say the same is probably true for me with like the internal conflict that I felt over the years for such a long period of time of like, no, tread lightly. You're walking on eggshells here. Make sure you remain as neutral as possible. And not that like it's ever our goal to upset people, but I think it's a shame when anybody in the world feels as though they cannot be their honest, transparent self because of the response.
There's
that
going to be elicit. A response.
Yeah, it's again, you're not going to make everybody happy. We've taken that a step further, and I've tried to encourage you because I felt very passionate and like honestly very internally conflicted by this of like, hey, if there are brands that don't want to work with us,
brands
so
have
be
been
it.
A thing because we did get dropped.
If there are people who no longer want to watch, so be it. That's okay as well. Personal decision. That's completely fine.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to bend and be malleable to try to make our values fit a certain brand or have our values not upset a particular viewer. It's been a really interesting experience, but it's so fortifying and it's been a great thing. It's been incredibly liberating, I would say, especially with doing this podcast, speaking our minds and tackling some subjects that are going to ruffle some feathers. But you know what? This is how we view it, and I'm not going to bite my tongue or hold back.
Yeah, and some people are upset. They're like, why have you done that? Why have you gone into religion and politics? Because that is a taboo subject that you're never supposed to discuss. Didn't your mother teach you growing up? You never discuss politics and religion. And it's just, these are important issues. And with the platform that we have been given, I truly believe by God that I don't want to shy away from issues that are important, because that doesn't honor him in any way. That doesn't, if anything, you're disrespecting it and being selfish with your platform.
I would much rather be a servant and soldier for God instead of being this amoeba with absolutely zero opinions when it comes to anything and everything.
Yeah. So when I say I kind of lost myself a little bit for a while, it's funny because I was listening to a podcast. It was a smaller church podcast that had Joanna Gaines on it. And she kind of talked about that. You know, one day, man, come on, Joe. You're like, never going to happen. He said that before.
I will let you guys in on a little secret here. We were this close. We were this close to having them on and working with them.
So funny direction that the podcast almost took is we were literally in contractual negotiations with their podcast network, Blind Nil. And I don't even think I don't think they're even doing podcasts anymore, because it was like through Universal, and then there was a big sale within. And so the whole deal fell apart. But
semantics. Yeah.
And so like a different network bought it. And so there's all this behind the scenes stuff that we didn't bring up, but we were this close to being a podcast under the Magnolia umbrella, which probably would have allowed my dream of having
them on, which we're still open to, by the way, if you're out there.
We're still open to it. We're available anytime. We'll travel. Have baby, we'll travel. They have great coffee. It's perfect. One day. Come on, Joe. Come on, Joe. No. So she's just like,
Well, now.
now. But anyway, I saw her on a podcast and she was talking about when she first started making the show and she worked for the television network and they had to be so careful what they said and what they did behind the scenes and what they did on their own personal social media, and that she kind of lost who she was.
Yeah, that'll happen.
Because she had to cater and be this hallmark version of herself.
Yeah, you're trying to appeal to everyone and you're trying to save face, right? Like there's I think
you have to be liked to be successful on YouTube. You don't though. Well,
you don't have to be liked by everyone.
That's true. But when you're trying to build that platform and everything depends on it and you don't have a house or a toilet, like you feel like maybe I shouldn't tick off a bunch of people or speak out on things that are going to be divisive or that people aren't going to agree with because
it's just a risk.
We need a toilet.
Once again, it's all a risk.
Yeah.
And that didn't necessarily factor in for me. I think just like with everything else, everybody tries to save face when you're presenting yourself publicly, right? You want to try to...
It's like a first date.
Yeah, you want to portray yourself in a certain way.
You're not going to go on a first date and be like, so you believe in aliens?
But like with us, I think it's always been the case that from day one, it's like, hey, we don't know. I don't know. And I'm not going to pretend like I do. I may be mistaken when I think that I know, when in reality I do not.
What are you talking about?
Anything.
Aliens?
Knowing how to build. Again, to go back to that, like we always tried to present our channel from the start, the jump of like, hey, this is what we're doing. I'm not saying this is the proper way of doing it. I'm not saying this is the safest way. This is just what we're doing, and this is not a
wing it. We should have called it wing it at a prayer.
This is not a how-to instructional channel, but we're doing our best here, and you guys get to watch us try to figure it out for ourselves.
Right. Yeah, it's always just kind of been our personal journey. Definitely not a DIY.
Yeah. So,
or not DIY. I mean, like a how-to.
But again, I think that serves as a hang up as well for people who are wanting to pursue something. It's like, hey, well, I don't know all the ins and outs of doing this. I'm here to tell you once again, to serve as the example. It does not matter. You figure it out as you go, and look at how our skills have improved over the years in a number of ways, whether it comes to video production. Go back to the first episode of this podcast. Doing this podcast is very, 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 very different from what it is that we do over on Good Simple Living, and that required a whole lot of figuring out. We came in here last week talking about these people who are making the decision to pursue an online career independently, and all the figuring out that comes along with that. It's you don't have to know what you're doing. We still do not know what we're doing when it comes to a number of things, including podcasting, but we do our best, and you pursue your goals wholeheartedly. You don't hesitate. You don't allow for that fear that you feel internally to dictate your actions. You establish a goal. You trudge a path to make an attempt to get there. It's not necessarily going to be pretty. Might be some awkward turns, slips, and falls along the way. But as long as you are pursuing that goal and moving in the right direction, that should ultimately be all that matters. For almost 3 years now, Melissa and I have relied upon Delete Me to help keep our personal information offline, and they also happen to be a sponsor of today's episode. So if you're online at all, you're at risk. For example, those random phishing calls and emails that we all get? Well, they're a sign that your personal information is going around and being sold online, which puts you at a much higher risk for scammers and, even worse, identity theft.
When we first signed up for Delete Me, they found hundreds of listings with our private data, but thankfully their privacy experts were able to have them removed on our behalf, saving us so much time and frustration. And the cool thing about Delete Me is they are always continually scanning the web to make sure that our data doesn't pop up again, which is a really important feature because 2 months ago, they only found 5 listings with our private data, but this month they found our personal information in 75 new places because these data brokers never stop. And that's why continual monitoring is so important.
These data brokers literally scour government sites, public information sites, and even your own social media pages in search of your name, birthday, past addresses, social security number, and even your family members. They then package it all up, create a profile on you, and then they sell it to other data brokers, companies, and sadly, even scammers.
While you can't always control whether or not you are the target of one of these data brokers, you can make it a lot more difficult by taking a proactive approach to securing your personal information like we did with the help of Delete Me. Just click the link below or go to joindeleteme.com/GSL and use our code GSL to get 20% off. I just had this conversation with Kaimani 2 nights ago. Was that 2 nights ago?
Yeah.
Where he was like, he's feeling a lot of pressure. He's 14, which is hilarious, but he's so goal driven.
As he should, yes.
He's just like, I have to know what I'm doing. And I said, you're 14 years old. You don't, even if you made like a solid plan, this is what I'm going to do with my life. It's probably not what you're going to be doing 10 years from now.
And not at 14.
And then what you're doing at 24 probably isn't what you're going to be doing 10 years after that.
I'm 41. I still don't know what I want to do in life.
Yeah, we keep changing it. I
That at 14, what we're doing now didn't even exist when we were 14.
Nope.
And if you had told us at 24 or 34 what we would be doing at 44, no, we're not there yet, but 41. But we just never would have seen that. How does that happen? That's not what we're going to be doing. There's no way that this turns into this.
This isn't our life. Is kind of how I feel a lot of the times. And when I look around, I just look out over everything. I'm like, how is this possible?
Yeah. Why?
This is not our life.
Why?
But then when I really stop to take the time to think about it, it's like, no, but you sacrificed for all of those years. Remember that? Remember not going out to get dinner? Remember gardening so that you could come up with some free dinners for you and your family? You remember pooping on a bucket for 2.5 years? I mean, all of these things. You remember the long days and the late nights, and again, it's not all of the credit belongs to us. We had a tremendous amount of just God's blessing along the way, but we did work. We made this happen, and it wasn't always pretty, like I said a second ago, but we trudged forward and we made it happen.
Well, in high school, they tell you if you're going to start a business, you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have to have this business plan. And then you have to, remember writing the business plans?
Yeah,
Did you
everything
take
has
marketing?
to be buttoned up.
Yeah, and you had to have a whole plan and you had to have a budget and this is how it's going to lay out and everything. And all of that is good.
Sure.
But not necessarily how it plays out.
It's not a requirement.
Or necessary.
Yeah.
So that's what I was telling Kaimani, because I'm like, if you have a passion or you have a gift, which everybody has a gift or more than one gift, pursue it, trust God, and work really hard and don't get distracted. So we have a lot of conversations about don't get distracted by girls at 14. And he's like, I'm not going to date. He says he's not going to date till he's 20, which is hilarious.
I can boil all of this down into 4 words.
That
little slogan that I wear and that gray shirt that I have sometimes: work hard, trust God. I purchased that shirt as soon as I saw it because I was like, yes, that should be the message. You don't have to know everything there is to know about achieving whatever goal it is you establish for yourself, but work hard, work toward it, and trust God. Simple as that. And chances are that so long as you are checking all of those boxes, good things will happen along the way.
Yeah. And bad things might happen along the way, but bad things might not always be bad things. Sometimes when things fail, it's good.
Lean not on your own understanding.
Yeah, exactly. Like my whole life is falling apart, but it might actually be falling into place. You just can't see that in the moment.
Yes.
So, the loss of a job or something like that feels so devastating, or an opportunity that you wanted so bad. I mean, there was land that we wanted that didn't work out, that felt devastating at the time. There were jobs that you applied for that fell through, that felt devastating at the time, but they led to where we were ultimately supposed to go. So those no's can be such a big blessing at the same time.
Right, without you even realizing it.
Yeah, like your failures can be your biggest blessings. So don't become discouraged by them.
And I'm here to tell you, again, personal experience, there's nothing that has been more fulfilling than the freedom and independence. It's just so incredibly empowering to, for years and years, envision this fictitious world, this dream of what is maybe possible for us, and then to build it over time, hour by hour, day by day, nail by nail, screw by screw, to make this happen for ourselves. There's literally nothing more satisfying in the world, aside from our marriage, our kids and all that. It's just to build your dream and turn it into a reality. As cliche as it may sound, it is such a powerful experience. Now, I know you feel the same way. I feel as though anything is possible. Anything it is that you and I can collectively dream up together, we can achieve it, or we can at least make an effort toward trying to make it happen for ourselves. And it is a possibility. It doesn't have to be a guarantee. Like you said, there will be hiccups along the way, for sure. Absolutely.
A lot of no's.
But you don't need it to be
you don't
need it to be a sure thing. You just need it to be possible. And it is possible.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. And it's really fun to kind of watch our kids go, I don't know that I want to work a traditional job. Not that there's anything wrong with working a traditional job, but you and I both have done that. And when you do work a job, you're on salary. There's only so far you can go. So it feels dead end because it kind of is.
It's unfulfilling in that regard. At least it was for me.
You're building somebody else's dream instead of your own. And whether you want to own a bakery or a restaurant or open a gym or create an app or be a podcaster or
whatever it is, within reason, whatever it is.
Yeah. Whatever it is that you want to do, start a charity. There's a path there, even if you can't see it yet. And it's just, you have to not only bet on yourself, but you have to believe in yourself too. Like you have to actually think that you're capable of doing it, because it's usually us holding ourselves back from achieving our own dreams.
Yeah. And again, it's not to say that it's a sure thing, right? Like, hey, just as long as you're working toward this, it'll happen for you. No, maybe not. But kind of like Melissa just mentioned here a second ago, even when things go wrong, you may not understand the reason for it in the moment, but there's something greater. There's some good to come out of every hurdle, every hiccup, every tragedy. There is something good to come from it. So you just have to keep going.
Yeah. And I think I've seen that a lot with different famous people. We sat down and we talked to Bethany Hamilton, which was awesome, but she couldn't see that in the moment when she lost her arm to a shark bite. She wanted to be a professional surfer, and she was so gifted at it and so talented at it that when her arm got bit off, she was literally like, how can this be God's plan?
Yeah.
How? He gave me this gift. He gave me this dream. He made me excellent at it. I was on my way. And then this tragedy happened, but his plan for her was so much bigger. And the way that she goes out and affects other people's lives now is so much more than what she could have done had the accident never happened. Or you think of people like Tim Tebow, who probably saw himself playing in the NFL, being this professional quarterback, and he was a Heisman Trophy winner. He had a plan and a gift, and he was good at it. And then God shut that door for him. And that probably in the moment was very confusing.
Devastating, I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, it had to have been, why did you give me all these gifts? Literally make me the best in college, Heisman Trophy, and then you let me fail. Like, and I don't know, I mean, he has very strong faith. And maybe he didn't feel that way, but I think that's how I would have felt that day
I'm sure
that I
there's
got
an element
cut.
of that, for sure, yeah.
But God had such a bigger plan for him. And he runs a Tebow Foundation now, him and his wife, and they do Night to Shine, where they put on these proms for special needs kids. And they are beautiful events. And then he's devoted his life to fighting human trafficking. If he had been playing football, he wouldn't have devoted his life to fighting human trafficking. I mean, he is changing lives because of what God did in his life.
And he's inspiring others to do the same in their lives.
Yep, exactly. So God works in really mysterious ways. He can give you a gift. He can set you on a path. You think you have it figured out, but he's got this little hook in your life, like, oh, detour. And we may not understand it when all of a sudden the gate goes up on our big, bright, golden path. But then what he has for us is so much greater. It's like that cartoon of the little girl holding the bear.
Yeah.
And Jesus has the big stuffed bear behind his back, and she's all sad giving it to him. But she's trusting him and giving her little tiny bear. And he has something so much greater for her.
Why do you think it is that it's so common to hesitate?
Because we like security in our lives.
We're faulty beings.
We're faulty. We don't necessarily believe in ourselves. And you can have strong faith, but still doubt that you're that important to God.
Sure.
I think that's a lot of it too. It's like, well, who am I that he's going to make sure that this works out, or
like
make sure that I don't
maybe
sink.
that's where like that guilt that I feel on occasion stems from, of why us, why me, how come it doesn't work out for so many people, but for us it worked out favorably? Why?
And you can flip that the other way too, when stuff doesn't work out, and go, why me? Why did God do this to me? Why did God let it work for this person? Why is this person better? Why is
grateful
this person
for it,
more
but
popular?
why? I wish it did work out for everyone. I wish everyone's goals and dreams were obtainable, but that's not always the case. So yeah, it's a really interesting thing to be conflicted by.
Yeah. And we're definitely small potatoes on the platform.
For sure.
I mean, we're like those little potatoes that you throw back in because maybe the little seed ones that has a single eye, and maybe they'll grow a bigger potato. We're that potato.
We are, but life has I don't recognize our lives. I really don't. And especially because for such a long time, like I mentioned, it was a pipe dream. It wasn't reality. And was it Did I ever genuinely believe that it was possible? Probably not, if I'm being completely honest. And yet, despite all that, here we are.
Ye of little faith.
Ye of little faith. I have my moments.
Maybe that's why it's like we still have, I think we still live with those doubts. We still live with those. I mean, for sure we do. We still have those. We always say we're not cool enough.
Yeah.
Like, there's people that we really want to have on, or we'd love to sit down and talk to. We would love to have the opportunity to share their story or hear their story, or just like coexist with them in a room.
With podcast guests in particular is when it really smacks me. There are moments where we're talking to somebody and I get so lost in my head that I have to stop and refocus, because I'm like, I cannot believe you're sitting across a table from me right now.
I do that too.
We're just normal people. How did this happen? How are you here? How am I here?
Yeah.
What is going on?
What is going on? But then there's other times when there's people we want to talk to, and then we say, we're not cool enough. And I'll still reach out to them because I am completely shameless. I will literally like walk up to anybody.
To your credit, that's a good thing.
It's not that I'd rather have a no and know that it's a no, but I asked and I tried.
Yeah.
Like I always say, what does it take to get a no in this industry?
Again,
like,
you got to leap, right? You have to take that risk. You need to know. You don't want to be left wondering.
I've been told no to my face, and I was like, all right, I'm going to Homer Simpson out of here.
Yeah, but we always appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, now that's a no. And that's fine. Getting a no is hard. And yeah, we always say like, we're not cool enough. We're not there yet.
I think
we're probably never going to be there.
I think we've become a lot more comfortable with that because of our experience over the last 5 years of like, hey, take a chance, bet on yourself and go find out.
1% might say yes, and that's going to be fantastic. But you have to know that there's going to be a lot of disappointments along the way, and there's going to be ups and downs, and you just have to keep trudging. And again, it doesn't matter. Like this applies to anything. This applies to any business, any dream, any passion, any little project that you want to do. It's the same journey.
Same mentality.
It's like salesmen where they say, if you can learn to sell stuff, you can sell anything. Insurance, furniture, horses, yourself. Like it doesn't matter. The product. My dad used to tell us that because he always encouraged my sister and I to be entrepreneurs. And he's like, it doesn't matter what the business is. And we're like, well, we don't know what kind of business we want to have. He's like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and it goes beyond business.
It's the same model.
It's not just business.
Yeah.
It's who do you want to be?
Yeah.
Ultimately, who do you want to be? Who do you envision yourself to be one day? And taking the necessary steps to get there. Like the Bill Cosby thing. We always do the horrible reference. Bill Cosby back in the 80s before all of the drama, let's say.
For the Jello.
But that episode of The Cosby Show, right? Where he has all of those young men in his living room and they're like, well, how do you decide what you want to do? You pick and then you pursue it. What is it you want to do? Not just professionally, not just as an entrepreneur, what kind of person you want to be. Once you establish
hiccups,
what it is, hiccups in the tum-tum. Once you establish what it is you want to be or what you want to do, start working your way, move forward and try to make it happen.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, 5 years in here, what do you got on the plate here for the next 5 years? What dreams can we conjure up for ourselves over the next 5 years?
I have learned based on the past 5 years and the 5 years before that and the 5 years before that and the 5 years before that to expect the impossible and know that our lives are going to look completely different in 5 years.
That has been our experience.
Every 5 years has been...
Case in point.
5 years ago, there's no way that we thought I'd be sitting here with new hiccups in my belly.
No.
So 5 years from now, I think our lives are going to look completely different. I think there will be opportunities that we can't even fathom at the moment. And maybe eventually, we always say the next 5 years, we're going to calm down. That's going to be this. And it hasn't been that. That's not been our story.
Yeah, grateful for it.
Our story has just ramped up every 5 years.
Unexpectedly.
I don't know where it can go from here, but I'm here for it. I think God has some really cool stuff in store. And maybe it's not even for us. Maybe it's for our kids.
Yeah.
Because we have kids that are becoming adults now.
Yeah.
And I think Nevaeh has a lot ahead of her. I think she could go really, really far with what she wants to do as long as she works it. Kaimani's going to be really interesting from 15 to 20. He's about to turn 15 here. 15 to 20, Kaimani has very lofty goals. He has this goal of 20 at 20, and he was telling me about it. I'm like, okay, kid, like, let's keep it.
Mighty ambitious.
I want him to keep it reasonable because I don't want him to be disappointed, but I don't want to talk him down at the
You don't
same
want to crush
time.
his dreams and motivation either. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't want him to like aim too high and then like I'm like, you have to set practical goals for
Yes.
yourself.
Yeah.
But you can still have a big dream.
But do you? Would you say that this goal was practical for us at one point in time?
We
No.
didn't see it going here. I feel like our goal was practical. Yeah, it was a little nuts. So I just want to make sure he has a path because he said something the other night. He was like, if you want it bad enough, you can get it. And I'm like, no, you have to want it and you have to work it. And he's like, yeah, that's true. Like that's definitely an aspect of it. But he is a hard worker and he's very driven. And I think he can get there. And I've had him listening to Jordan Peterson a lot. And there was like one really impactful thing that he said, and it was get good at getting good at things.
Yeah.
And doesn't even matter what it is. And he even said, like, if you have a kid that likes video games, like maybe don't let him like go down the video game, like sit in your basement hole, but let him get really good at video games. And then let them get really good at something else because get really good at reading, get really good at learning, get really good at building an app, get really good at anything. Just get really good at everything you do.
I think to go back to maybe the coolest aspect of what it is that I've learned over the last 5 years, I think bigger picture, I hope that what we've managed to accomplish for ourselves serves as an example for our children that literally anything is possible. You can, no matter how far-fetched, within reason, no matter how far-fetched your dream is, you can achieve those goals so long as you work and you uphold and maintain this self-discipline of trying to make it happen for yourself.
Yeah.
I think more than anything else, that's my big hope anyway, when it comes to the kids, is that they can look to you and I and be like, hey, mom and dad busted their asses and sacrificed. And because of it, they achieved their dreams.
Yeah. I want them to know that they need to identify their gift because it's what ultimately they're meant to do. It's what God has for them. And it doesn't matter how you use that gift, but use that gift. You're good at something. There's something you're passionate about.
We all are, yeah.
Use that gift. And there's a lot of people that say, don't take your passion and turn it into work because then your passion becomes work and you lose the passion.
Sure.
But I think if God gives you a gift, it's what you're meant to do. Pursue the gift, work really hard, trust him, and then if and when you reach any kind of a peak or find success, honor him in that. Don't shy away from it. Don't say, I did this all myself. Don't take the credit away from yourself if you worked really hard, but be humble about it and then use that for good. Try to seek out ways to help other people and don't be selfish with anything that you achieve because you have to make sure that you're giving that back. If you're given success or you're given a platform or you're given your dream come true, make sure that you're then honoring the person, or not the person, but the
entity,
the God that led you there.
Yeah.
And so there's a circle that has to go in order to find true fulfillment in life.
Yeah, completely agree. So again, we wanted to come in here just to review, but mostly just hopefully encourage and inspire maybe some of you out there in the most modest and humble way possible. Again, we just feel so incredibly blessed, and that's thanks in large part, like we mentioned, a while back now, to so many of you out there who have taken an interest in our pursuits and trying to make these goals happen for ourselves. So big thank you to all of you out there for the role that you have played in helping to make our dreams come true.
Yeah, because you guys believed in us. And we believe in you guys. So we know everybody has a dream out there. When you're young, it's a little easier to do it. And I think when you get a little older, it's a little easier to do it because it's like, okay, I have some time it's really scary to do it in like your 30s.
We did it. 36.
When you've got little kids and stuff, that's really scary, but you can still do it. So there's no time in life when you can't do it. So whatever your dream is, believe in yourself, trust in God. Lean on those passions and those gifts.
These obstacles are not insurmountable. It's achievable. We are the proof. We're sitting here telling you can do it. So if you are contemplating making some serious life change for yourself, we would encourage you to do it, make it happen.
And if it doesn't work out, like
Not our fault.
Yeah.
No, it's not on us.
I'm just kidding.
A quick pregnancy update because we don't know whether or not we're going to be on here next week, guys. We hope to be,
Oh, man.
but we are living day to day at the
We
moment
are.
here. Very high level of stress and
We're
anxiety.
a few cramps away from a life change here. So I do want to encourage you guys to go find Good Simple Living or New World Old Soul. Good Simple Living is going to be where you're going to get most of the updates on Instagram. If you have Instagram, go follow us on Good Simple Living because that's where we're going to be doing stories and sharing photos and things like that. Like when the baby's born, we'll announce it there. We'll probably announce it on our Good Simple Living Facebook page. It's gotten a little rocky over there. It's a little
Facebook.
tumultuous over there on the Good Simple Living Facebook page.
Yeah, you're not going to make everybody happy, like we said.
We got a lot of people fighting like amongst themselves.
I haven't even been following.
Oh
it.
my gosh.
I can't right now. I get burnt out on it every now and again.
Yeah.
I know I've said it that I enjoy like just going back and forth. I just right now I'm like, I got too much other stuff going on.
Yeah. We'll like post something and then it just goes like,
Yeah. Life is, our lives are priority number one currently at the moment. So we'll dive back into it at some point. But feel free to,
So maybe stay out of
spout
the
off on there.
comments
Please just
section.
don't get personal with things. Please don't name call. Please don't
Yeah.
become very condescending. And you're fine. But
yeah. So on Facebook and on Instagram, Good Simple Living, we will be sharing updates when the baby arrives, all of that. We'll have obviously a vlog will come out too on Good Simple Living announcing baby and everything and more details. But if you want to know right away or you want to know what's going on, Instagram's probably going to be your best.
And then again, as a reminder, if we are not on here, you don't see a Good Simple Living video out, we will put some stuff out to try to keep everybody
on the other
abreast.
socials. But yeah, if you only follow us on YouTube, then it might be like, oh my gosh, they've disappeared for a week and everything. And you can figure out what's going on.
We're just taking a break. So appreciate all the well wishes that have been coming our way from so many of you out there. Really, really genuinely appreciate
Getting
it.
close.
We're getting close. And again, if we're not here, we're taking some time for ourselves, our family, just to bond with the baby and just recalibrate to our new reality. So
Drink lots of Black Rifle coffee. I'm gonna start drinking this one. This is my recommendation if you need lots of caffeine. Black Rifle coffee, high caffeine, waken the neighbors. I bought 2 bags because I know I'm gonna need it.
it's the Bok Bok Pew Pew.
Bok bok pew pew.
All right. So love and appreciate you guys. God's blessings upon you. We will hopefully see you back here next week. But if not, you know what's going on.
You know what's going on.
All right. We'll see you guys.